Hey guys, I went and found me a little deal on Craigslist and 40 bucks. Not a bad price. It's a generator. It's a Maxa 3000. The year model is 1997 and I got it because the guy said that it had the oil seal on the engine. This thing's been sitting in his garage for 20 years. It's a 1997 model. The gas that was in it when they used it the last time in 1997 was still in it. So my $40 fine, I did a basic cleanup on the carburetor, but it's not what he was told over the phone by a mechanic that was the problem. It was this little plate. If you see that wire coming out, that is your low oil shutdown. They typically leak and they're easy to fix. So I went ahead and ordered me the gasket for it. It's a good $2.50 and a new air filter, because this is the original air filter for it, and which is shocking, but it's the original. Everything's actually original. The carburetor, however, is severely pitted. So this site here, and I'll put a link in here to it, so look down at the bottom of the video, they'll be in blue or something. This is the carburetor that goes on it. Pretty simple, it's not too complicated. And this carburetor can be swapped out with just a few bolts, a few 5/16 and a couple 3/8, I think. This new carburetor was about $13. So it comes with everything in it that you need, your gaskets and stuff. And a little plug so you can plug off the vacuum on it. I guess that's what one of these are. And not too complicated, including a new filter for $5. So my $40 3,000 watt generator that I got for practically nothing, and it did take a good long time to clean that gas tank out because it was just gunk. Pretty decent little setup, but I'm going to get it fired up. You'll hear it. It doesn't sound good, but it will run. As soon as you put a heavy load on it, though, that carburetor can't handle it. So let's get it fired up, and I'll show you what I mean. Okay, you can probably hear it kind of struggling. And it doesn't do well. And you can see where oil is dripping out down here. Right down there at the bottom. We'll kick this thing on, you can listen to it. You can hear it struggling. It can't seem to govern itself because the carburetor is in such bad shape. And voltage on this is only about 115 because it ain't getting the right amount of idle. So we'll shut it back off. And grab the tools after shutting it off, and we'll go ahead and change that carburetor out. All right, now we're removing these bolts on both sides, but I'm going to leave them in until I get this air cleaner assembly loose. And I've got the screws loose on it. All right, and now what I've done is I went ahead and took the air intake assembly off, and it's just one screw that takes it off on the body here on the air cooling shroud. And it has got two screws that are inside of it, you see right here. And you want to remove the gasket off of this because you don't get a replacement gasket for this in the kits. So you want to keep that to go on the next carburetor right there. Now the next thing is you've got the vacuum line and the fuel line. Fuel line you can just pinch with a pair of channel locks and pull it off. So just take your clamp off, you'll be able to turn the carburetor and wiggle it off afterwards. These carburetors, these new ones, they come with the screw already adjusted for what's supposed to be 3,600 RPMs for full horsepower on these engines, so you don't want to mess with that unless you have to, but it's ready to go. There's your vacuum, there's your fuel, and you can see this one's nice and shiny and clean, and this one, if you look down in it, you see all that varnish built up down in there. That's the problem we're having with this. It's gunked up so bad that the bowl is pitted, the needle's pitted, and a rebuild kit is $21. But a new carburetor is $13. Kind of goofy to rebuild. So let me get this pulled off. Part of pulling this off is you want to make sure that where your governor spring, and this is your governor on the motors down here, that's your governor. So you want to make sure that your governor spring ends up in the same hole every time. There's numerous ones on here for different functions of these engines, and you want to make sure that that governor spring goes exactly back where you took it from on the new carburetor. So make sure that you have the same setup up here, and you can look and verify that they're the same, and that way you get your governor accurate so that your engine runs correctly. So let's go ahead and finish pulling this one off. All right, now since I got both carburetors off, I had the linkage was in that hole right there. So I took the linkage off, and if you just pull your governor rod forward, you see, you can get it to where it'll come off of there, and then take your linkage with your carburetor, bring it over here. Will still have its linkage on it, and you're going to just transfer your linkage over to this one, the same. And the way to put it back on is just by pulling that lever forward and hooking that back on. And have your bolts ready so that you can put your gasket on there to hold it in place and then put it back on. So let me get this thing fully mounted on there and we'll go to the next step. Right now the carburetor is back on, and what I do typically is I use good clamps. I don't like these little spring-loaded clamps. They seem to always end up losing their tension, and I would recommend while you have it off, just put you some good clamps on it. The vacuum line was pretty snug, held real well, but I went ahead and put a clamp on it. And the gas line, of course, I put a really good clamp on that too. So now we have the carburetor on. You can see the governor linkage, you can see up in there, is hooked up correctly on it. We don't want to mess with this idle adjustment screw yet until we fire this thing up, get it warmed up a little bit, do a voltage test, and then if we have to, give it more fuel or less to get the voltage to about a 130 volt output, because that's what you're after. You don't, 120 is great, 130 is better. So okay, so you can look that up. It's actually going to require less amps to run your tools. Your tools will run cooler. I always run my generators at 125 or greater. Usually I set these at 130 volts open flow, and when they're loaded they run about 122 to 125, which is better efficiency. So, but you don't want your cycles to exceed too much, or you'll have issues also with your tools, so burn your brushes up faster. So let's get the rest of this on, and it's just a screw up here and the two that mount there, and we're finished with this. Put the air filter back on. All right, all my border collies have come out to visit while we work on the generator here, Miss Kate, and just stopped, went in, ate supper, and figured I'd come out here and finish this last part of the video and give you a fire-up review of the video here so you can see exactly what we've done. All right, so now we have all our tools laid out we need, and I've got my screwdriver to adjust its RPMs if need so, and I'm going to try to keep it at about 122, 123. I did a little lookup on this one, and it keeps 60 hertz at about 3650 to 3700. Once above that, its excitation of the coil gets a little bit too high and it gets above 60 hertz. So we want to keep it at 60 hertz. So most generators have a system in them that'll really help control that, but this one don't. It's pretty plain Jane power head on it. So now there's a multimeter. It's set at 200 volts, and here is the same tool. You see right there, 4.5 amps, and it does have a startup of about 7.5 amps. So we're going to set this up right now. It is sat long enough for it to fire up without anything but a prime. So let's go ahead and get it primed, and then we're going to fire her up. Hopefully she'll fire up the first time. It might take a pull or two. Oh, there we go. All right, see if you can hear that. I'll put a clip in there from one and the other back and forth there so you guys can see this difference or hear the difference. So I'm at 117 average. To 118. Plus, so there we go, 119. Now you notice by jacking it up a little bit, I don't have any sag in the voltage. Turn it off. There she goes. That's what I like to see, above 120 rest voltage. All right, so we're doing good on that. You can hear the sound. With a new carburetor, and she's definitely going to use less gas. All right, not bad for a $40 finder's fee there. Cost me a grand total of about $19 to fix it.